So we want to come back to small college athletics and the Olympic sports and a bunch of these things in a moment. But I want to stay on one other thing on sort of the big time athletics and not always, frankly, big time athletics. As listeners of this podcast know, and Jeff likes to remind them, I'm a huge basketball fan. I grew up in the heyday of the Hoyas and then Terps in DC, and now a big Celtics fan. And so I followed the recent news of ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, who I never pronounce his name correctly, giving up reportedly millions of dollars to head to his alma mater, St. Bonaventure in upstate New York, to become their general manager for the basketball team. And I think the headlines, and I confess they confused me. I think they confused a lot of people because all of a sudden we're saying, wait a second, college athletic programs have GMs? It felt like another new title in a title-obsessed, world of higher ed, which we're already talking about has an issue with administrative bloat. So what exactly is a GM in college athletics, and why might someone be jumping from a pretty cushy job at ESPN to take that on?
My unfortunate answer is much like the rest of higher education with title bloat. This is not a standardized standardized role. What a GM means is different from school to school. The GM of a professional sports team, like the Boston Celtics or my Cleveland Cavaliers, is generally referred, would be considered a front office role. And that's somebody that oversees scouting, oversees drafting, oversees contract negotiations, and is the guy in charge or girl in charge of figuring out who's going to be on the team and how we pay for them and how that fits in with our business office. And generally, the coach is below the GM on the organizational chart. Sometimes they're the same person, but the GM is often the direct manager, supervisor of the coach. That does not happen in college. When the GM role right now is kind of a catch-all for all of the stuff that has nothing to do with coaching basketball. You can't have a director of salary negotiations or the same way because there's not a collective bargaining agreement. And that arrangement's going to look differently. A GM may be somebody who helps with scouting and figuring out who are the kind of people that we should be looking at, maybe spending NIL money on or going after. But it also might be a fundraising role. It might be somebody that helps connect athletes with agents, helps athletes understand what their professional opportunities might be, not just in the NBA, but elsewhere in the world, help them secure actual marketing contracts, and trying to bring in other professional and player development resources into a program. So somebody like Woj would be excellent for this because nobody on the planet knows more agents and knows more professional basketball player personnel folks than Woj, not just in the NBA, but in Spain and in Greece and in Italy, the kind of places where a St. Bonaventure player might hope to play for 7 years and make more money than any of us for a little while, right? We have other people that have come into this role who were coaches or who were scouts. And no disrespect to Woj, somebody who might know ball a little bit better than a longtime reporter. And that might work too. If you're at a school that's never going to raise any kind of meaningful money and is only hope is to go find some Serbian teenager and convince them to come to Loyola, Maryland or something, maybe you look for a different kind of position for that role. I don't know what's going to end up being the template in 5 more years. This is not a job that pays like NBA insider, but also if you're somebody like Woj, where you've already made enough money and you might want to decide, maybe I don't want to have to worry about showering with my phone so I can make sure that I'm not scooped on Isaac Okoro's new contract extension. If you want to have a slightly better quality of life, which is insane to think about, that athletics in college would be like a calmer job. It could be that way. And I could see, an NBA vet or some athlete who retired or somebody who's stepping away from a head coaching role, maybe step in and wanted to have that serve that kind of position for a school that they care about.
Yeah, Matt, we should say that we laughed at the Woj, showering with his phone, but he actually does do that. So listeners, right? Those listeners who don't know that, maybe you do too.
I've never told a joke. Yeah, right. That's it.